Okay, let's get started here. I just have a short list of questions that I need to ask you to make sure we are all on the same page and in agreement here. You can sit and stand whatever you want, but the first question I have is are you removing front door security effective February the 1st? And if so, when were you going to notify us?
That is my plan, and I actually notified you guys on November 8th and January 3rd, I believe it was, yes. November 8th, I talked about it in my meeting with you guys, and on January 3rd, I again told you I was going to have to do something with the security.
I know you mentioned that it was a possibility, but
I said if I couldn't get any more funding, actually, if I couldn't get that $49,000, that's the only thing I knew I could do, because I had to have another person on the road. And I said that if you remember that same meeting, on January 3rd, I asked you to, if you just allow me to retain the $49,000, I'd not have to make any essential cuts. I could keep services pretty close to where they are at this present time. I also talked about how I was down 3 employees. I know I heard that you guys talked yesterday about how I hadn't gotten rid of anybody. Well, in September and October, I lost people. Knowing the budget time was coming up, I did not replace them, because I'm not the kind of person that's going to hire somebody and fire them 2-3 months down the road because there's no funds available. I can't do that to people. So we work short. I've talked to you guys about having 3 on the road in the several shifts. That is why. I've got those 3 employees' positions were gone already, so that's 3. I told you I was going to talk to the circuit judge about it. And indeed, I did talk to the circuit judge and told him of my intentions, and that is who I have to report to, is the circuit judge.
how many staff members are going to get terminated as a result of this?
Of removing security? None.
No, they're just moving sideways. Nobody's being moved out.
Technically, 1 is going to the road as a road deputy.
But,
The other 3 are still available for bailiff duties.
okay. Even though you talked about not being able to continue to provide the security, where the confusion came in is because the budget was still 181 for bailiffs the way it had been in 11, and it was again in 12, which led me to believe that the money was there. That's why this comes as a bit of a surprise. 2 weeks ago, $181,000, and I know that this is not set in stone, but $181,000, you submitted something to me that said you were going to spend $181,000 on bailiffs who also double as security guards. What took place in the last 2 weeks that, because you're not going to spend $181,000 on bailiffs anymore?
How much am I going to spend on bailiffs then?
Well, you spent $181,000 in 2011 fully staffing it. You're not fully going to staff it, you're going to spend the same amount?
If you take in consideration comp time, I'm sure that I'm going to have the whole $181,000 for my bailiffs. My bailiffs are the ones that rack up the comp time, because they have to be there from the time the judge is seated to the time the judge gets out of off his chair. A lot of those run late into the night. Now, I think I know the answer you're looking for, and my answer to that is, what has happened in the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks actually, is that I didn't have the additional funding for my road people. I was not allotted the additional funding that I asked for. If you remember, I asked for $1.5 million. I was given $500,000 out of general revenue for the operation of the jail and the sheriff's office. I was given $440,000 for federal prisoners, which I brought in right at $180,000 last year in federal prisoners. So you allotted me a little more there, and you allotted me additional $50,000 for sales tax, more than what I had projected, which I also said I was thankful for, but that wasn't going to cut what I had to do. I currently have 4 officers on the road. 1 shift will have 3, and I have to put that guy on the road from the only place I have to pull from. It's either that from the detective bureau or from the bailiff's positions, court security position.
Right. So you're going to have 3 bailiffs now?
I have 3 bailiffs.
And they're going to make $60,000 a year? If you're gonna spend 181, they're gonna make
Well,
60,000.
they may not now, because I've had to redo that since you stamped the final budget. I've had to reallocate funds or people other places now. One of those bailiffs is, I just answered, is going to go to the road.
So he becomes, in theory, some of that 181 goes up to deputies.
That is correct.
Okay. What measures are you taking right now? We talk a lot about the food expenses. Traditionally, food expenses run about 10 to 12% of inmate revenue, going back through history. Last year, we changed vendors, and now they're 25% of prisoner revenue.
Last year, we changed and they're 25%.
Yeah.
Well,
We did just a whisker over $500,000 worth of prisoners, and we spent $125,000 on food.
Okay. As I have told you in the past, we had this talk 3 months ago possibly. I am feeding those prisoners at $1.20 per meal is what it's coming out to for the year. I think we've talked about that, and Mr. Bass, you have a restaurant, we even brought that up. What's your cheapest one? $5 is what we decided would be the cheapest meal you can get. And if you're making 50% profit, it's costing you $2.50 for that meal. I'm serving it for $1.20. As you go up in prisoners, your cost per meal goes down. That's just the way it is. The numbers are to help you out on that because you serve more, but everything's being fixed and everything else. But while we're on that subject, let's talk about jalapeno poppers and raisin bread because I understand that got brought up.
Yes, it did.
Okay. What was the question, I guess?
The question is, you're taking action to move security away from the front door.
Mm-hmm.
If we could get food costs back in line with what they have historically been, you could save $50,000 to $75,000, which would go a long way towards providing that front door security. I think jalapeno poppers and raisin bread are the type of things that drive the food costs up to $125,000 a year as opposed to the 50 or 75 that they traditionally would have been.
Can I ask where you got your figures from? How many years back did you go, first of all, for your projection of what it used to cost and what it costs now?
Probably 7, 8, 9, 10.
Okay. 7, 8, 9, 10 when we had a full jail, the whole time a full jail. In fact, I think 7 and 8 were part of those heydays whenever we didn't take a penny out of general revenue. If I'm correct, I believe I am there.
No, that's not. The
7, I think it was.
The 3 years that no money came out of general revenue were 3, 4, and 5, I believe.
Okay. Well, anyway, we had a full jail. I don't doubt that food cost was down at that time. I really don't. However, you're talking jalapeno poppers. Ordered one time, December, she ordered it, it was $155, and she ordered it for New Year's Eve, so that they would have something in their New Year's supper tray, other than the plain food they always have. Just talk to them. Talk about cost going down, let's talk about January of 10, 11, and now 12. My cost in January of 10 for the month of January was $12,716. My cost January of 2011 was $11,721. And my cost for January of 12 is $9,498. Down the last 3 years in January, and that's all I can present to you right now because I don't have February's numbers for 12. So they are dropping.
In January of 10, you spent $12,716, and conceivably that jail was pretty doggone full in January of 10.
January 36 more prisoners than what I have now for sure.
January of 11, this was after the feds and the ICE had pulled out.
Right.
We're 11,721.
36 people.
Now we are, what do we have in there? 80, 100 people now?
Probably about 82 right now today, which is what we had back then.
And we're still
January.
at 9,500.
That's December's and January's bills. You know that you don't pay December's until January. And Now that we're paying twice a month, it's some of January's also.
Mhm.
So yes, we are. Let's talk about Raisin Bread, since I didn't answer that question yet. I don't know how you even know they had Raisin Bread in there. I don't really care, but it's not on a bill going all the way back to July that I had time to look. Raisin Bread is given to us free if it's on the truck. We pay $1.12 a loaf for day-old bread, and they give us just about anything that they have. Raisin Bread is one of those, but they give it to us free, according to my cook, if it's on the truck. We don't even pay for it, so it's not going to show up on a bill anywhere.
Okay, because 2011 has ended, how many prisoner days did you have?
In 2011,
Of all shapes and sizes.
well, 365 prisoner days, if that's what you're
No, I mean,
asking. I'm not for sure.
if you had 10 prisoners a day, you had
Okay.
3,650 prisoner days.
All right, I will tell you, total inmate count for 2011 was 35,106. I presented this to you guys last month. In fact, I think you probably had one of these. Total meals served was 105,318. Year-to-date cost at that time, and I believe that's the year-end cost, is $125,992. If you'd like to divide that, you can, but that's 96.15 people per day where it was in that jail.
How many?
96.15508. But if you take the meals divided by the amount of prisoners, you get 1.20, $1.20 a meal. There were 4,013 prisoners processed through that jail last year. That means they've come in and gone out. The other ones have stayed for a while.
Well, the food costs are, I mean,
You told me yourself that St. Charles had told you, the director of the jail at St. Charles, who houses almost 600 people, told you that he's getting 90 cents a meal right now. And I told you at that time, I don't doubt that at all. If I had almost 600, mine would be down there. It'd probably be lower than his actually, but if I can do it at $1.20 at 96 people. But he told me he thought he was at $1.25, but that's neither here nor there, and I think we had that discussion already also.
it's obvious that, we disagree on whether there's money to be saved there or not. That's really not the issue.
Well, it evidently was, and when I wasn't here, it was the issue. That I'm buying Raisin Bread and jalapeno poppers for him.
Yeah, you are, but apparently.
No, I'm not buying Raisin Bread and jalapeno poppers. Yes, she did do it. I did not catch it, and I probably wouldn't have said anything for the one day. $155.
So,
What other questions do you have?
what you have in your budget for total salaries, you say is causing you to have to move personnel around.
That's correct.
Because you can't provide the front door guards, you can't provide the same level of service that you provided last year with this budget.
I believe that's a loaded question, but if you're asking me for what I had originally budgeted in the bailiff's account on that line item, I couldn't provide the
Now,
same services.
I'm talking about the whole anything salary
That
related.
is correct then, because I'm down 3 officers right now,
Okay.
so I cannot.
So-
That reflects on there.
In December of last year, you employed about 77 people.
More like 83, but okay.
Well, you cut 77 checks the first go around in December.
Okay. I don't know about that. I believe my count is like 82 or 83 right now,
But it might be up to 82 or 83.
but I haven't hired anybody since
Right,
September.
you haven't hired anybody. But if I take the money that you were allotted this year
Mhm.
in salaries and compare it to the amount of salary, if I have the first